Welcome back to Ask Dr. Clarke. If you have a question for me about marriage, marital crisis, recovery from divorce, or any tough, difficult, crisis-type life situation, email that question to me directly. Be happy to answer it on the air, so to speak, in one of these Ask Dr. Clarke videos. And my email is simply David E. Clarke, Clarke with an E, David E. Clarke, PhD, @gmail.com. Now here's today's question, and boy, it's a tough one, but I think a very important one. Dr. Clarke, I just suffered a miscarriage. My husband and I are devastated, man, I know you are, and don't know how to heal. What do we do? And there isn't much about miscarriage in the church because people are very uneasy about it, not sure how to help. Dr. Clarke understands how to help. My answer. First of all, I'm so sorry. This is a huge loss. It's heartbreaking. It is a major trauma. No doubt about that. You're going to have, both you and your husband, PTSD. I'm not kidding. That's true. The good news is you two can and you will recover. And here's what I recommend. Take the right steps. You can have full recovery. First, I'm stating the obvious here, but I want to make sure you get this. This is a baby. It is a person. Your baby has a name and will always have a name. And by the way, the Bible is clear in its teaching that when you lose a baby, that baby goes straight to heaven. There's no question about that. You will see your precious child again. Second, you and your husband need to face this awful loss directly and have a series of conversations about your baby and his or her death. There's just no substitute for that, for the healing. I've led a number of young couples through this process. It is brutally intense, but it works. You need to vent your pain, your emotions, both of you, your grief, your anger, your deep sadness. There's a lot of things inside, thoughts and feelings. You have to vent that over and over. That's how trauma recovery works. Not one time, but many times. And for the loss of a child, there's really not much bigger in terms of trauma than that. You're going to have to talk through a number of times what happened, as hard as that is, the actual events, the chronology of events, from finding out you were pregnant to the whole process to when things began to go wrong and trips to the doctor and then to the hospital, every single thing, frame by frame. There is no substitute for that. This is critical for your trauma recovery. You won't get better if you don't do that. You can understand wanting to gloss it over or with a quick prayer, God help us, we want to move on, we want to get pregnant again. That's not going to help you heal because you lost a child. And of course, you cry out to God in prayer, and I recommend, of course, you not just do that individually, you certainly will, many times during the day for months, but together. You want to handle this as a couple as much as you can. It is unacceptable for the wife to be in deep grief and talking, and the husband removed and avoiding and not wanting to deal with it. No, that's sinful. You want to do this together. And be honest with God about your grief. You can question him. Why, God? Why would you allow this? You've got plenty of company in the Bible. Look at David in the Psalms, psalm after psalm after psalm after psalm, questioning God, angry with God, frustrated with God. That's okay. It's honesty. God wants that. It's part of how you work things through. You can be angry at God for allowing this to happen, for not saving your baby. He certainly could have. As Christians, we know that God is sovereign, so you have to deal with him. Third, I want you to write some letters. I want you each to write a letter to God. And if I'm seeing you in my office here over the phone, then I would have you read, you write a letter to God, you do it separately, and then you would read those letters together, okay, to God. And again, you're very honest, very raw, very real, dealing with God about the death of your baby. And then second, a letter to your spouse about the loss, just to make it personal, to make sure you're connected. You write a letter to each other, and then you come together and you read those letters to each other. Just about the process and how you think your spouse may be feeling and how you're feeling. This will join you in your grief and really lead to, I think, excellent recovery. Painful? Man, you know it, but it's healing. And then finally, and this is the tough one, a letter to the baby from each of you. Now, it's a psychological tool. Of course, the baby's gone and a baby can't understand anyway. It doesn't make any difference. You've got some things to say to that precious child. Things that you missed, you won't be able to raise that child, all the hopes and dreams. You need to write a letter to the baby. And then, of course, you'll read those, each write a letter to the baby, and then you read those out loud together. That could be with a Christian counselor like me, a caring pastor, a family friend, or a family member. After reading these letters, you burn them or you shred them. These are not to be saved. All right, you're trying to move forward. You will never forget, of course, about your child, but you shred these documents. And of course, you can, even after the letters, you continue to talk about the loss as needed. Now, the truth is, you don't get over the loss of a child. You do not. No one could. But with God's help and working together as a couple, you can get through it. And that's what I'm talking about. You'll always carry the pain of the loss, but you will move forward and you will heal from the trauma. If you're finding these Ask Dr. Clarke videos helpful, help us reach more people, grow our audience with God's truth by subscribing to my YouTube channel and tapping the like button. We're trying to make a difference in the lives of people who are really suffering, whether it's with a miscarriage, a divorce, a marital crisis, your husband has left you for another woman, as I talked about in a previous video. There's abuse in your marriage. You're the one through your sin that destroyed your marriage. Whatever the issue might be, Dr. Clarke has an answer, hopefully a biblical, straight, honest answer for you.